Hey guys, welcome to Redneck Off the Range. Today I want to do a 50-hour review of our Branson 3515H tractor. Now, I'm not going to get the tractor out and show it in action, but I will roll in some photos and footage that I've taken over the years of the tractor in action so you guys can see what we've done with it. Now, it should be noted that Branson as a brand is no longer a brand that's out there in the tractor market. They were partially owned by TYM, I believe, and then maybe a year or so after we got this tractor, TYM totally bought out Branson, and then they dropped the Branson name. Although I do think that a lot of their models are still very much the same. They use a lot of the same parts. So it's not like the tractor is just completely gone, and most of the Branson dealers anyway are now TYM dealers. So it is worth noting for that. So me and my dad actually went in on this tractor. This is I believe it's actually a 2021 model, but we got it in January of 2022. And so this is 2024, April 2024, and we've gone through 2 whole seasons with this tractor, and we're coming into our 3rd season, and we're sitting at right around, well, a little over 50 hours, maybe like 52, 53 hours. So, you know, averaging about 25 hours per year. Now, most of those hours have been doing 2 tasks primarily, brush hogging and driveway maintenance. So we have a box blade and we have a landscape rake that we've used several times to smooth out the driveway, because you know, every time there's like a really big rainstorm, a lot of the rock likes to wash down the driveway. So probably maybe 40 or more of those hours have been used doing those 2 tasks. Now, we also have plenty of other implements that we've used from time to time. So when we bought this tractor, we bought it with, you know, the tractor and the loader, which is pretty much how you buy any of the Branson tractors. Most dealers will only carry them with loaders, at least, you know, most of the popular models. So the dealer that I got it from would only, you know, they only sell it with a loader, so it came with a 62-inch bucket, and then we also threw in a box blade. Now I'll show all of the implements that we have for this tractor at the end of the video. So we got the tractor, the loader, and the box blade, and we had a brush hog off of our old Ford 9N tractor that we still have, and we've fixed up that brush hog, and that's what we've used. But we've also, in the last 2 years, we've got other implements like the landscape rake, log skidder, carryall, a trailer mover. We got a sprayer. Oh, and obviously the pallet forks, which the pallet forks are the front end attachment that's primarily on the tractor most of the time, and we've used them for many different things. But other tasks that we've done are obviously, I've used the forks to clean up brush. We've used the forks to move around implements on this pallet racking behind me, like the box blade is on that shelf. We have the sprayer on that shelf, so that's what we've used the pallet forks for. We've picked up logs with them and stuff like that. And it should be noted that so this is a 35 horsepower tractor. It's got about 30-ish horsepower at the PTO. And in the last two plus years that we've had this tractor, it has done every single task we've ever asked it to do. I have yet to come across anything that we can't do with this tractor. Now, I see a lot of people doing things that you probably shouldn't do with a tractor, things that you probably need a bulldozer for or just a larger piece of equipment, and then they end up breaking things, or they find that their tractor isn't powerful enough and they blame the tractor for just not being an adequate enough piece of equipment, as opposed to using the right piece of equipment for the job. So everything so far that we've needed to accomplish on this 30-ish acres of land that we have here, everything that we've tried to use it for, it's done it just fine. But like I said, pallet forks, you used it to clean up brush, logs. I mean, we get a lot of downed trees here anytime there's like a really big storm come through. Just about every time a big storm comes through, we get another tree down on the levee or just somewhere else on the property. And so the pallet forks are good for that. We've hooked up a 9-foot utility trailer on the back to clean up brush that way. Just pick it up by hand and throw it in the trailer and then bring it up here later. The bucket, I put some teeth on the bucket and it's been good for dirt work. We've used it to fill in some ruts out in the field where a truck got stuck a few years ago. We've used the bucket to backfill some trenches whenever we did some electrical work out here, and it's done all those tasks just fine. Sometimes we use the bucket to just clean up brush and you know, pieces of wood, stuff like that. Obviously, like I said, the brush hog, we've used the brush hog on the fields about twice a year. We try to do it 2 to 3 times a year. Just depends on how fast the grass grows and how wet the ground is, whether or not we can actually get into the fields to actually brush hog them. But we've also taken the brush hog through the woods to clean up some of the, you know, the little saplings and grass and stuff on the trails that we've been working on. So we've used the brush hog for that as well, and it's worked just fine. And of course, the old brush hog can also take out some pretty decent size little trees. I was actually surprised that this old brush hog can do some of the things that I've seen it do. And then obviously, like I said, the box blade, the landscape rake, you know, sometimes in a really big rainstorm, a lot of the rock will wash off the side of the driveway. And the first time I ever used the landscape rake, we came out here and there was a lot of rock that had washed down the hill, and I hooked up the landscape rake for the first time, and I used it to pull up probably 75% of the rock that had washed off the driveway. It raked it back up onto the driveway, and it was really good for that. And on top of just being able to just smooth out the driveway, fill in the low spots, and the same with the box blade. The box blade is probably better for strictly driveway maintenance, and the landscape rake is really good for getting all the gravel that's washed off to the side and pulling it back, because it allows a lot of dirt and stuff to go through the tines while still getting the majority of the rock back up. I mean, it doesn't get 100% of it, but still, it still helps with getting it back onto the driveway. And I've also, I got the landscape rake to help clear off the trails of any like small sticks and limbs and stuff that fall onto the trails. I haven't used it for that yet, but that's probably going to be coming in the next year or so. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, the sprayer, of course. A lot of, you know, a good portion of the driveway, especially when it gets into like the spring and summer months, it'll get a lot of grass and weeds growing up through the driveway rock. And we got that sprayer to hook up to the back and put a bunch of weed killer in, and you know, just go up and down the driveway a couple times, and that's worked pretty well. You know, it's a little bit of a learning curve, trying to make sure that you got the sprayer far enough down so the wind doesn't just blow the spray everywhere and that it's not effective. That sprayer, it's one of the cheaper sprayers that you can get, and we've already have to replace the hoses. They're all cracked, but we'll next time we get it down, we'll probably take the hoses off and put some new hoses on. But other than that, I mean, the sprayer has worked just fine for the first year that we had it. I guess we've had it for a year and a half at this point. We've also used the log skidder to move down trees to where it's just easier to cut them up, and so several trees have fallen down over the levee over the last year or two in those big windstorms, and I would use the log skidder and a chain and basically pick up, you know, one end of the tree and just drag it down the levee and up to the fire pit so that we can cut it up and it's right there next to the fire pit and we can burn it right away. So the log skidder has been good for that. Obviously, I just kind of got the log skidder to help with like the trails and stuff, you know, get any like larger trees, larger logs, you know, drag them down the trail so that we can cut them up and get them to the wood pile. Trying to think. That's probably about it that we've used this tractor for, and honestly just a few odds and ends over the years, you know, little things that we've found that we could use the tractor for, but those are all the big things that I can think of right off the bat. I have done the 50-hour service on this, and I mean, it was pretty much right at 50 hours when we did it. And so the 50-hour service, it's oil change, change the hydraulic fluid. So it's about like 9.5, maybe close to 10 gallons of hydraulic fluid that comes out of here that you have to change within the first 50 hours just to get all those metal shavings, anything that any metal that the tractor has kind of accumulated over those first 50 hours. Just try to get that out of there as much as possible. So oil, hydraulic, obviously the filters for the hydraulic, hydrostatic, and oil. And then the front axle, you have to change the front axle fluid as well. And all of this, you know, it's really easy and most anybody can do it. It's just a little bit time consuming, especially if you don't have enough pans to actually get all the oil out and dispose of it properly. Our neighbor, he takes old oil and he uses that to run his truck with. So we obviously have a great place to take any used oil out of any of our pieces of equipment. So that's good. Also, there are a few grease points on it. Now, the manual says that there's 9 grease points. I've only found like 5 other than the loader, obviously. I've only found 5, but it's also the manual is for the R model, which is the shuttle shift model. And my guess is that the shuttle shift model has more grease fittings than the hydrostatic model, which is what we have here. And speaking of which, a lot of people will tell you that the hydrostatic tractors as a whole, they're just not as good. They're not going to be able to do what you want them to do. You got to get yourself a shuttle shift or a gear drive or whatever. They're so much better. And, you know, maybe they're a little bit better, but honestly, like I said, this tractor has done everything I've asked it to do. It's easier to use if somebody, you know, if you have somebody else in your family that's not used to tractors, it's just so much easier to show them how to use a hydrostat than it is to show them how to use a gear drive tractor. But that's just my opinion. And like I said, it's done everything I've ever asked it to do. I've never felt like I was underpowered to do any of the tasks that I've needed to do with this tractor. So anyway, let's just kind of show you around the tractor and show you some of the modifications that I've done to the tractor, tell you some of the modifications I plan to do with the tractor, and just show you all the implements. Alright, starting at the front here, we have the bucket that came with the tractor. It's a 62-inch bucket, and it's currently on a pallet because we don't use the bucket as much as we use the pallet forks. But as you can see here, I've added a Bobcat bucket bite tooth bar. Now this is actually designed for a skid steer bucket, And as you can see here, you know, the tooth bar is not as wide as the bucket itself. So I've used some just flat iron or some flat steel, and you know, cut some shims to put on both sides. And I had to get some longer bolts, but once I got it all you know, put together, it's been pretty good. It's worked pretty good for dirt work. Now, the implement that's actually on the tractor are these Bobcat pallet forks, and I do work for a Bobcat dealer, but we don't have a Bobcat tractor, obviously. But I do get some pretty good deals on the Bobcat implements. So like I said, the pallet forks, the bucket bite there. And honestly, these pallet forks, they work just fine. They're 2,500 pound rated, and they're 42 inches, so they work just fine for anything that we need. And our pallet racking back there is 42-inch pallet racking, so the 42-inch forks are definitely plenty long to get anything on and off of the pallet racking. So anyway, those are our first two implements, and the first modification is the bucket bite here. Now we have the brush guard, and there's really not much of a brush guard, but you can get different brush guards, I think, weld them in place if you want. I don't weld, so I haven't done anything like that. I think there's also some bolt-on ones you can get, not necessarily by Branson or TYM, but I'm sure there's other people that make them. And of course we have the loader, the BL150 loader. The one that we have has the extra linkage there, which gives you, 4 extra places to grease, which I do need to grease this thing this weekend. But I think this is the better of the two loader options. I could be wrong, but I see a lot of bent cylinder rods with the other loader that doesn't have this extra linkage here. I guess it extends the cylinder rods maybe a little more, and they're more prone to bending, but I don't know, I haven't had that problem. And obviously it is a skid steer quick attach loader, so makes it easy to take the bucket on and off and switch it for the pallet forks or anything else that you could possibly want to put on the front of this tractor. It does not have a third function kit, and I've thought about getting a grapple and a third function kit, but honestly it's really expensive for somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, and there's really just not a whole lot of room with all the other implements we have. I mean, yeah, we could probably manage to get it up there, but it's really tight to actually get implements up there. So, we had the log skidder up there at one point in time, but it's just hard to actually get up there with the forks. It's really, really tight. So we stopped putting anything up there. This one, it's also tight, but it's a little bit lower, so it's not quite as bad. So anyway, just going through the tractor here, we have, obviously you have your brake and your emergency brake. You have your fuel tank down here, which is nice at basically knee-high level. So it's a lot easier to actually fill it as opposed to having something up on the hood or up behind the seat. You don't have to pick up your gas can so high. Down here we have the rear differential lock and the four-wheel drive control, which I guess it's in four-wheel drive right now, which I probably need to take it out of four-wheel drive. But I use that from time to time, especially on hills and when it's wet. So, those two controls are nice to have. You have your range selector, so you have A, B, and C. A is low, C is high. So I primarily use it in low gear. So yeah, and then of course you have your neutral down there. This control here is to disengage the PTO to free spin the actual PTO shaft or impeller, whatever you want to call that. So that's good for like putting the brush hog on. You can actually maneuver the PTO. You have your headlight controls there, your horn, your key, your PTO switch, your hazards, your cruise control, which I really don't use cruise control. Over here you have the throttle. So you got your tortoise and your hare on there. And you have your instrument cluster here. You got the green range there. I primarily will run this tractor within that green range, and that's another thing about this that I did not mention. In those 50+ hours that we've had this tractor, we've been running this tractor, it has not regened once. So anything over 25 horsepower, you have to have a DPF or some other system to deal with, you know, the carbon emissions and everything. A lot of people will say, you know, you'll have a regen at, you know, 20 hours or whatever, 15 hours. But a lot of people will also tell you that if you run the tractor hot like you're supposed to, typically within that green range, which is the PTO range, so if you run it within that green range, it will run hot enough for you to not have as many regens, and that's where you're supposed to run it anyway if you're running anything that runs off the PTO. So, like I said, within, you know, the first 50 hours, I've not had any sort of a regen, which I really like because I've heard people have problems with the regen process. And the regen button is over there, and I'll have to read up on the manual on that again, but I'm pretty sure you you put it in park and neutral, and then you hold that for 3 seconds or something and make sure you got it running at the right temperature or whatever. So anyway, onto the back here. So we have the 3-point arms down here. There's nothing currently hooked up to it. You have the PTO down underneath that shield. You got the drawbar, which I put a 2-inch ball on that. And the tractor does have rear remotes, so we don't have anything that will run off of rear remotes, but if we did, it's just a nice feature to have. This is another modification that I've done with this tractor. I put a toolbox behind the seat. I'm pretty sure I have a video somewhere on my channel on putting this toolbox on and stuff. So nice feature to have. I do also have some lights that I want to put on the not the drawbar, but the roll bar. I have a set of lights, a light bar and a couple of lights to go facing the rear. So I have those that I want to put on there, but I still need to get some hardware, and I think even some electrical connections to actually hook it up, so I haven't done that yet. Got the rear tires filled. I do have a video out there on filling the rear tires, and that definitely helps it with not tipping over. It also helps it with the loader as well. Keeps some weight on the rear end. Alright, so over here we have our old brush hog. This is a house brush hog, and I've replaced the blades on it, but I've also replaced the gearbox as well, because the old gearbox, like, it wouldn't hold any oil in it, so you'd always have to put another quart of oil every time you had to use it. But that thing works pretty good. We have the Speco quick hitch here. Now, not everything that we put on the back of the tractor is quick hitch compatible, but some of them are. So we use it for the landscape rake. We can use it for the trailer mover right there. We can use it for the carryall. Now, the carryall is the only implement that I have that I haven't used yet, but that's because I haven't set it up yet. I do plan on, I have a stack of wood on the other side of the barn over here that I will at least put, a bottom and a back on this, hopefully this weekend, and we'll get that, we'll get that started, and I'll need to get some more wood for the sides and some other hardware for that. But the quick hitch will work on the carryall, the trailer mover and the landscape rake. It does work well for moving around the brush hog, so I can pick it up and at least pick it up on the bottom 2 pins, but I don't actually use it for the brush hog, to actually use the brush hog. Of course, we have the box blade up here, and this is not quick hitch compatible, but I am going to make a little bit of a modification to it to where I could at least hook the quick hitch up to the bottom 2 pins and then use an adapter hopefully for the top pin, and that'll at least make it a little bit easier to hook up. But this is a Sunburst box blade, basically just a no-name box blade that the dealer had, and that's just where we got our box blade from. And so far it's worked just fine. Got the 6 ripper shanks in it, got the front and back blades. Haven't had a problem with it so far. And like I said, that's a Sunburst box blade, Speco quick hitch. The landscape rake, the trailer mover, and the carryall are all made by King Cutter. Those 2 over there are the RK by King Cutter brands, so for the RK tractors. But I got all 3 of these from Rural King, which is just a good place to get inexpensive implements for your tractor. Also, the sprayer up there is also, it came from Rural King. I forget, it's not County Line because that's Tractor Supply, but it's like Country something. I can't see what it's actually called. But anyway, that's the sprayer. I think it's like a 10-foot spread. And it works pretty well for spraying. It also has the little wand there as well. So that's the sprayer. It came from Rural King, but it's a different brand. It's not made by King Cutter. Alright, I came to this side of the tractor to show you a better view of the log skidder. Now, I actually got this log skidder off of Etsy, I think last year, and it's a pretty nice little implement. It was only like $220 back then, and it came with the frame here. It came with all the pins that you need, and it came with this little hook, which I painted red. I painted all the hooks for all my chains red, and it also came with a chain, 10-foot chain. So it came with this one grab hook here, which I also painted red, and then I put a slip hook on the other end to help with log skidding or tree skidding, whatever you want to call it. So it came with that and everything you need for the log skidder for like $220. I think they're a little more expensive now, but I got it off at Etsy. You can get a similar log skidder from, I think, Tractor Supply or Amazon. It works just fine. Which also brings me to the last modification that I've put on this tractor so far, and that is this chain box that I made out of a 50 caliber ammo can. I do have a video out there on this chain box as well, so if you want to see a little more about this chain box and how I put it together, you can go check that out as well. But I think that is all of the implements that I have. Like I said, I've used them all except for the carryall, which I do plan on setting up this carryall to use in the very near future. So we'll get that all set up and we'll use it for clearing trails when we get more into the fall and winter time when it's not so hot and there's not any ticks up there. So we'll get that set up for this coming fall. And of course, a little more on the tractor. You got the loader joystick. I don't think there's the controls for the rear remotes, which again I haven't used because I don't have anything to use them with. And I think that's really it. I don't think there's anything else I can really tell you about this tractor. Let's just give you some final thoughts. Okay, so just a few final thoughts on the tractor. Like I said, the tractor has done everything I've needed it to do. So far, haven't had any problems with it. no regens with how I run the tractor. So really I have nothing to complain about. Now, some people have asked me on other videos on this tractor if I regret getting a Branson tractor because Branson is no longer a brand being sold, well, I guess anywhere. And so far the answer is no. Like I said earlier in the video, Branson was bought out by TYM, and most of your Branson dealers are now TYM dealers if they weren't already TYM dealers. Some of them I think have gone out of business, which is sad. My dealer is still, you know, they are still in business. They do sell TYM, and in fact we have gotten filters from them in the recent, well, I guess last year. So they do still have filters and everything, and they will still service the tractor. So far, you know, TYM dealers have not said, you know, we're not going to deal with Branson tractors, or I haven't had to deal with any sort of trying to source parts yet. Hopefully that never happens, but you never know. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. But so far, I don't regret buying a Branson tractor. Will I regret it in the future? I don't know, maybe. I don't know if we'll keep this tractor forever or if we'll eventually get a different tractor. You really just don't know what the future holds. But so far, I do not regret this tractor purchase. Like I said, it's done everything I've asked it to do. I've never felt like it was underpowered or anything. I haven't had any problems with it yet. And that's honestly all I can ask of the tractor. What will the future hold? Will it break tomorrow? Maybe. But as of this moment, I don't regret buying this Branson tractor. So that's really all I have for you on this review, 50-hour review of the Branson 3515H. And I'm sure this video has gotten really long at this point. So we're just going to leave it at that. So subscribe to my channel, and until next time, be safe.